Wakati nga tuli mu nnaku enkulu, abantu bangi bagufuula mugano okwegulira ku bintu ebyenjawulo ebyokulya omuli ennyama sako n'emmere, wabula era nga bagezigezi bangi ku nsi kuno nabo bakozesa akakisa kano okufa okulaba nga bayisaawo ebintu byabwe omuli okutambuza ebintu ebiri feeke ate nga bino bibeera ku muwendo gwe wansi okusinziira ku bintu ebyaffe bye tumanyi ebya bulijjo. Gye buvuddeko twakulaga abasajja nga bwe bali mu kukola ennyama enkolere mu zirabalatole zaabwe. Eno nga wetwogerera yatuukadda mu supamaketi ez'enjawulo okwetoolola ensi yonna, era ng'eno kikubeera kizibu ejjawulo n'ennyama eyaffe gye tumanyi eya bulijjo naddala eyetundibwa mu zisupamaketisi. Kyokka ng'era kkiriza omanye nti bano tebatudde, nga kati wenjogerera ebintu ebikolere ku ebiri bingi katale omuli amagi, omukyala ogwa plastic sako n'amakuroni, nga bino wenjogerera byatukadde katale era nga n'awano mu Uganda weebiri. Wakati mu nteekateeka y'abasajja abaagala okendeza abantu abali ku nsi kuno, amaanyi bagateeka nnyo mu kuvumbula ebintu ebisobola okwanguya obulamu bw'omwana w'omuntu, wabula nga bino ebiseera ebisinga obungi akabanga we kayitawo bivaamu ebizibu bingi omuli n'agalwadde agabayambako okusaanya obulamu bw'abantu, era nga bano bakozesa akakisa k'okuba nti abantu ennaku zino tebakyagala nnyo ebintu ebibasumbuwa. Okugeza kati tugambe nga mu kufumba, ensangi zino abantu baagala nnyo ebintu ebyanguwa okujja amangu, era nga abasinga obungi kino bakikola okuba nti basobola kwawula bicupuli n'ebyo ebituukiridde ng'olunaku olwaleero bye njagala tutunuulire. Wenjogerera kati supamaketi ezisinga obungi sako n'amaduuka ag'enjawulo gajjudde amagi ag'ebicupuli, gano nga gakolebwa okusinga bannansi b'eggwanga erya China sako ne bannansi b'eggwanga erya Buyindi, era nga gano gakola bano basaamu obwongo bungi nnyo, nga gwama wowa ogenda odigula toyinza kulyawula n'amagi agaffe aga bulijjo, era nga factory zino ziri mu mawanga ag'enjawulo ku nsi kuno nga zigeneddwamu okukola amagi gano sako n'ogasapuliyinga mu bitundu eby'enjawulo ate nga gatundibwa ku bbeeyi rayisi. Bano okukola amagi gano ne gafaanana ddala ng'ag'enkoko geebiise, beeyambisa chemicals ez'enjawulo, wabula ng'ekyamazima chemicals zino we zigenda mu mubiri gw'omwana w'omuntu obulabo omuntu ayinza obutabulabirawo mu nnambiro, wabula nga bwe wayitawo akabanga bino bibeera byakweyoleka, kubanga bano bakozesa ekirungo ekya glucoractone okusobola okugumya ekikuta kino ekibeera ku ggiri n'ekkolerere ng'owama ne lifaanana ddala ng'ejje eryaffe erya bulijjo. Bakozesa ekirungo ekya benzoic acid okusobola okukuma eggi lino nga ddamu bulungi ng'ebirungo ebyalikola tebyonoonese. Bakozesa calcium chloride sako ne gypsum powder, ono nga yabayambako okukola ekikuta ky'eggi lino. Beeyambisa ekirungo kya sodium alginate okusobola okukola ekimere kino ekibeera mu ggi. Food color okugattako n'ekirungo ekya tetrazine dye, kino nga kye kibayambako okukola enjuba y'eggi, ng'owama lino wolisanga nga bamaze okuligattagatta tolina oyinza ddyawo yanajja eribiikiddwa enkoko. Nga wetwogerera kumpi kati ku lisemazinga amagi gano kwegali, nga nawane waffe mu ggwanga erya Uganda gyo lyabalamu wano mu 2018 polisi yaggalako kampuni emu ey'Abachina mitundu by'ekawempe ettula ng'ekyabagasisawo kyali kyekusa kukola amagi gano amakolere g'enjogerako. Bwe kigwa ku muntu omwegendezera nga yeetegereza bulungi nnyo, amagi gano asobola gawula n'amagi agaffe aga bulijjo ge tumanyi, kubanga ejja ekkolere livaamu kasuwadde n'akamu ng'amagi amalala agaffe ge tumanyi aga bulijjo agava mu nkoko. Omuntu aba agenda odyasa lyanguwa mangu okwatika, era nga sawundi alivaako nga lyatika tafaana nga sawundi ava ku magi gano ge tumanyi agaffe aga bulijjo agava mu nkoko. Enjuba y'amagi gano amakolere ya kyenvu nnyo okusinga ku magi gano agaffe ge tumanyi aga bulijjo ag'enkoko. Eggi lino ekkolere bw'oba omaze odyasa, enjuba yaalyo yegatta mangu n'amazzi agabeera mu ggi lino ekitali ku magi agaffe aga bulijjo ge tumanyi agabikiddwa enkoko. So ngera kkiriza nkutegeeze nti amagi gano amakolerere ne bw'olyasa ne limalewo ennaku n'ennaku nga terikozeseddwa toyinza kulaba kasoole n'akamu kaliguddeko, oba oba ogenda okulya ku jjoosa okadyetegereza oba kicupuli oba si kicupuli. Ekyo kikulekedde kuba ebintu bingi ebirala ebikyali katale kuno nga bicupuli, nga mu biro mwe mulina omukyere ogwa plastic sako n'amakuroni nga gusangibwa mu supamaketi ezisinga obungi sako n'amaduuka ag'enjawulo, nga gwama omukyere guno sako n'amakuroni tolina oyinza byawulira nti oba bituufu oba si bituufu, kubanga guno bagukola nga gufaanidde n'omukyere gwe tulimu ogwa bulijjo mu nnimiro. Olw'okuba nti abantu baagala nnyo ebintu ebyamangu ensangi zino, omukyere guno sinakindi oba amakuroni gano mwana wattu mwangu okufumba kubanga gwanguwa okujja, era nga bwe kiba kibadde kikutwalidde eddakiika 45 okufumba omukyere ogwa bulijjo, omukyere guno gw'ekicupuli gutwalidde eddakiika 2 zokka okufumba ne gujja, wabula ng'ekyenjawulo ekigwawula ku mukyere omulala kwe kuba nti guno gwe guba gumaze okuwola guddayo mu sheepu yaagwo eri era ne guddamu okuba nga gukaluba, nga kino si bwe kibeera ku mukyere ogwaffe ogwa bulijjo gwe tumanyi, nga ensonga lwaki weeyogendeza amawoteri agasinga obungi mu ggwanga erya China sinakindi mu ggwanga erya Buyindi. Bano ebintu ebimu byabwe babirira ku kyoto era nga nabo bakozesa akakisa kano okuteekamu omukyere guno omukolere sako n'amakuroni. Kyokka bino bwe byogendeza ennyo singa obeera oli wakaawo, omukyere guno sako n'amakuroni gano amakolere weetegekere singa kakutana n'obeera ng'obisirizizza sinakindi obogeesako n'oyokya obweko obw'enjawulo ku muliro obweko buno buvaamu ekika ekiba kiwunyira ddala ng'omuntu abeera yokyeza plastic nga ne bw'oba oli mu kuvuba omukire guno oba amakoloni gano ne gakulaga nti gayidde gwe n'ogezaako n'okalambiza n'ongeramu amazzi n'obissa ku kyoto omukka ogubeera guvaamu gusobola n'okulumya olubuto ebintu bino omuntu waba abirira bisobola okutagirawo bukyamu bubirimu wabula nga bwe wayitawo akabanga ebintu bino bye bimu ku bivirako ebirwadde nga kansa puresha okweyongera mbantu ebirwadde ebikwata amawuggwe okwerabiralabira saako n'akasaayi okwekwata nga kino tekikonyisa lwaki abantu abasinga okufa akasaayi okwekwata be babalinamu kasente olw'okuba nti ebintu byabisinga obungi bagula bajja mu supermarkets so ngera n'agalwadde agalala gannya gava ku kulya ebintu bino nga nabwe kityo gwalabye akairo nkusabye oyongere okwegendereza kubanga ebintu bino byamamira dda akatale ate era nga bwobiri obogezako tukkiriza ebigendererwa by'abantu abamu Ronald Kiwesiga egange.
Welcome to Humans TV Africa. You are most welcome to Humans TV Africa. You have just seen a video on food fraud, a video got straight from a production in Uganda, but this is of course Humans TV Africa. My name is Kato Mukasa, I'm Ugandan. I'm very much interested in issues of human rights, and of course food is a human right. Now, Humans TV Africa is a virtual TV, but also with physical studios. We have studios in Uganda, we have studios in Kenya, we have studios in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Ghana, UK, and the US. We are growing network, which is a registered NGO. HTV Africa, we are registered as a non-governmental organization doing charity work. Our role is to empower, educate, and inform our audiences. Now, if you want to join us, please subscribe. The email is right there. You can actually write to us at info@humanstvafrica.com. Our WhatsApp number is +254 7473 56767. But also, you can subscribe to Humans TV Africa and join us. You may want to come work with us as a volunteer. We're still looking for volunteers. If you're a student in any course and you want to share your ideas, you want to work as a volunteer, you want to join our production team, you want to share your story, that is the right channel to join us by looking for Humans TV Africa on YouTube or on Facebook. You'll be able to see us. And if you want to work with us as a volunteer, or you want us to open up a studio in your country, please send us an email at info@humanstvafrica.com. If you want us to open up a studio, a physical studio in your country, we can really do that and open it up in your country where you can give us live information right from your country. Now, this is why we exist, share ideas with you, to empower people and to change the narrative, especially about so many biases going on unchallenged. Now, having said that, in the studios today are 3 producers, a special show. We have a producer in Uganda, Dennis Bongoli. We have 2 producers in Kenya, Baya Hussein and Brian Kabeko, helping us produce this show. But also our most important guest today is Mr. Kimera Henry, a consumer rights advocate, based in Uganda. Mr. Kimera Henry, I got to know him, I think the year was about 2005. I'll try to remember, or 2006, quite a number of years ago. And Mr. Kimera was actually my facilitator. I was doing a course with Frederick Ebert Foundation. It's a German NGO that sponsors leadership all over the world. And Mr. Kimera came in as a facilitator. This is the first time I met that gentleman there. So you can imagine, since 2005, those are more than 20 years, if I can remember very well my mathematics. Now, this guy has been there. And even when he came to train us, sharing us with about consumer rights, I know he was already doing this work. So I respect him highly. I know he has been a facilitator, is really a practical consumer human rights activist who has been at it. He heads an organization, I know it as Consent. I remember the first time you came to train us as leaders in Uganda, you had those booklets of consent. So you see, I know the person I'm hosting today, and I'm very proud to have him. So, most welcome, Mr. Kimera.
Thank you very much, Paul, and it is a great honor to be. Thank you very much, Paul, and it is a great honor to be hosted on the Humanist TV Africa. and I'm glad for the compliments that you've given me while introducing me. And it is a great honor having been part of one's growth and today being hosted by that very person. Like a Luganda saying, you know, nozina, literally that the child that you have produced can play music and then you'll end up dancing. So
Yes.
in the African culture, the young people, when they thrive, they are appreciated. And I would like to appreciate you. So, Kato, you will appreciate that it seems the video is disrupting the good flow, but I trust members have seen me, or I could switch it off to get quality video as I do share with you. I don't know if that won't compromise the ethics and principles of the Africanist TV, but that is my humble request so that I can deliver quality to members who are listening in to us.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Kimera, of course, I've introduced him, and of course, he's going to be talking much more about what he does. Now, it's okay for you to leave the video on when we are talking. What Dennis is going to do is to put you off automatically. The producers will put you off as you talk. But for now, because we want the viewers to see you, I will request you to leave the video on. But as you talk, they're going to be playing your slides. Automatically will be off, and then the video quality will be compromised. But for now, I know that many people are going to be seeing you for the first time, at least in our network. So I want them to look at you, and of course to know that this gentleman here has been a human rights activist for over 20 years. I've just given a testimony that this gentleman, when I was picked by the Germans to be trained as a leader in Uganda, this gentleman was a facilitator. That's why I'm saying that it's important to give credit where it's due. Now, please leave the video on. Don't worry about the compromise of the network. Of course, as you talk, we shall be now showing the slides and later on the videos. So, Mr. Kimera, this is our show. Let us talk about consumer. Let us talk about food fraud. What is food fraud, basically?
Thank you very much, Paul. And I was going to teach or to share with the other African colleagues why I'm not calling you Mr. Kato. When a twin is in Africa or in Uganda, a twin is not called Mr. Remains with his
I'm just Kato Mukasa.
So when you hear me, okay. So thank you very much, Paul. When I think food fraud is not different from any other fraud, but basically when anything is tampered with or it is taken away from its original main purpose and it is played around by the unscrupulous to hoodwink consumers to make something look like it is an original foodstuff or something that is nutritious, something that is of good value, and whereas it is not, and it is being done for the interest of the persons or the people who are tampering with it for their personal gains, not as scrupulous but unscrupulous, then it ends up being a fraud. Paul, you are a lawyer. You know how fraud is all defined, but and others will look at it as counterfeit, or as but the fraud is all about theft, cheating. Okay, substandard might be genuinely done, but it will not be meeting the standards of the particular traits of that particular food. But looking at fraud, it would be that you're hoodwinking, you are cheating the consumer knowingly, knowledgeably, so which is a crime. So to me, in simple words, as a lay person, that is how I would look at food fraud. And this is not done only with food as a physical, it is done with water, it is done with spirits, it is done in, I'll take it from the aspect of food and beverages. I don't know if that gives a good rise to the aspect of food fraud. And the other aspect I would need to add on that it is nearly $1 trillion.
Yes, we can hear you.
So it is such a big business that attracts. It is such a big business that attracts the unscrupulous globally and mainly targeting countries that have not got a good policy, legal, regulatory, and institutional frameworks. Countries where the duty bearers have not invested in taking care of their consumers. I won't say that food fraud is only in countries without strong laws, but even in those countries where there are strong laws, if I would take the case of the UK, if you remember the horse meat in pies or in sandwiches, you know, this goes on, but it is less serious in countries that have decided to look at the welfare of their citizens. It starts with governance, in that the country looks at the social welfare of their citizens and it puts in place policy, legal, regulatory, institutional frameworks to take care of the welfare of the citizens. A country without healthy consumers, a country without a system that makes sure the welfare of the citizens is well entrenched, it is not a progressive country. It isn't a sustainable country. We'll end up spending what would be invested in socioeconomic welfare into sick care. We'll be ending up in hospital all the time. The elements of production will be compromised. We will have the SDGs will not be realized because we can't end poverty by people who are health burdened. And one of the biggest health burden is foodborne diseases. And some of these foodborne diseases are due to fraud, food fraud. Statistics show that 1 in 10 consumers globally, but more in Africa, are affected by foodborne diseases, food contamination, or food safety issues. So the aspect that we are discussing today is quite a strong, very important aspect. You can never have food security in any country without food safety. You can never have security in any country if the citizens are frail. So these are key issues that we are discussing today, and they do not only touch us, the citizen. It starts with the state. It starts with governance, food governance. Then it trickles down to the household. So this is how serious the issue we are discussing today is. But most of the times in our African setups, we look at it as something that is given. Countries where we do not go to the market a single day to buy food, then we will say, I'll get food tomorrow. I'll get the food from my neighbor. But where countries, a supermarket, a market is their garden, that is where you'll find that people are so serious to make sure that what is in that market is very key and important. So what we are discussing here is a matter of life and death, welfare of the African citizens. Even if I'm going to use some of the references that I'm going to speak about using the Ugandan case study, but it applies because as I do my work in Uganda, I also do it in the regions. And I would like to commend the institutions that have allowed me and the institutions that I rub shoulders with. At the national level, I work with the National Bureau of Standards, where we develop standards in different sectors. But one of the sectors that we develop standards in as a consumer is the Food and Agriculture Committee, where we have different divisions or different technical committees from which I take consumer views while we are developing them. Then from there, at the East African level, I engage in the East African Codex Committee that is part of the global movement, where those of you who are well aware that the Food and Agriculture and WHO formed a Codex Alimentarius Commission way back in 1963 to look at food standards that are facilitating trade globally. And the WTO, in case of any disputes, even in trading, they use those Codex standards to look at food trade. So at the East African level, I'm part of that. Then at the African level, there is the Africa Region Standards Organization. At that ASO, which has got its offices in Nairobi, I am the chairperson of the Consumer Committee. And in here, one of the committees or the working groups under the Consumer Committee is on food safety. So you'll find that food safety is not only at national level, but it goes on as building blocks, goes on to the REC, Regional Economic Commissions, or community, and then the continental, which scales up into the global. Apart from being at ASO, I'm also at the ISO Consumer Policy Committee, where I coordinate the communication and outreach in Working Group 21. But some of the issues that we deliberate on there are still touching consumer food safety. They go into digital issues, they go into medical, environment, and so forth. Then my organization is also a part of the membership of Consumers International, which is headquartered in London. So we bring in all the discussions that I'm going to have with you, bring in a national or a local, national, regional, continental, and a global dispensation. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen who are listening in and watching, food is the foundation of humanity. Food is medicine. Food is healthcare. Food is life. Food is what brings us together. In Africa, if we go back to the humanist times where our grandparents used to gather around the fireplace, one of the activities as sharing stories of life, they were sharing the blood and the stream of life, and that was food. So food is the foundation of humanity. And it is very key as we are looking at different human rights, as we are looking at different aspects of human rights, we put it at the center stage as the foundation. You'll appreciate that food has overthrown governments.
Yeah.
Food, by just a single cent added to a kilo, added to grams. So that tells you, when you have it today, don't take it for granted. With the vagaries of the environment, with the vagaries of geopolitics, with the vagaries of greed, food is being pushed down the drain and used as a political chip, used as a negotiation platform. So as Africa, we would need to have food sovereignty, irrespective of being the global world. We are still part of the element of the global part that doesn't need to go to a supermarket on a daily basis. Where Kato is, Paul is, he has to go to the supermarket to smile.
Yes.
But we are fortunate that a percentage of our African 1-point-something billion can go and harvest their own food. But now it is key where we need to have that food safe because it provides Medicare. Food is medicine. Medicine is sick care. Medicine only comes in when food fails. So that is why it is very important to talk about food fraud and food safety. The unscrupulous will try in all means to say that this is a nutritious food. If I would use pumpkin and they say pumpkin is good for this and that, and this is whole pumpkin, whereas there is only 10% of pumpkin and the rest is other fillers. Some of the fillers might not be natural substitutes, but they will be synthetic substitutes. So you consume knowing that I am taking pumpkin, whereas it isn't. So these are some of the things that are synthetic, that are added to food, that makes us sick. Just imagine where we have got failing health institutions and systems, and then you get foodborne diseases. These are the cancers that we are experiencing today. Our health budgets cannot sustain us as citizens. So this is where we need to be very keen on the foods that we take in so that they can maintain us to be productive. So ladies and gentlemen, as you watch, these are aspects that I thought that I would bring in. Food has been compromised in many aspects, and that's why we are looking at it from a food systems approach. Rather than looking at it from the plate perspective, can we look at it from the inputs perspective? The inputs that go into to produce this food, are they of good quality? You very well know, those of you who have grown up hearing the term garbage in, garbage out. Just imagine you use poor quality inputs to produce your food. They land onto contaminated soils in the environment. They use contaminated water. Then after that, it is harvested. Some of the photographs you are going to see, which I commend my colleagues at Consent and Food School, where I also chair another organization called the Food Safety Coalition Uganda, where some of the photographs and other aspects that you're watching I borrowed from to come and share with you. But look at that contamination of the water. Then you come in to do harvesting. You don't harvest it in good agriculture practices. You do not do good post-harvest handling. The transportation of this food goes on in wrong vehicles or wrong means of transport. It goes into the processing plants. You are going to see the milling plants that we have. But we dry this food on
Yes, the network is challenging us, but Mr. Kimera is flowing very, very well. The producer, please, may you continue showing those slides as our guest talks about these issues. You can see we're talking about food fraud and, of course, food security, food safety concerns. You can see the slides there, the images of hunger, the images of food scarcity, how important food is in our lives and how it is getting compromised in Uganda and of course in different parts of the world. You can see NTV Kenya showing about such kind of transformer, people jeopardizing the transformer, getting these kind of chemicals there, and then using these chemicals again to cook food. You see, food safety concern. So you can see putting food in a polythene bag, and how people really cook food these days, forgetting that basically these polythene bags have chemicals that can destroy your body, man cells, partial from treated maize. These have been quite a number of occurrences of poisoning, food poisoning in Uganda, in Kamwenge, in Kenya. Food safety issues, food being put on the ground. How can you put food on the ground and then you think this food is going to be healthy, it's going to be safe? Food must be preserved well. So these are food safety concerns our guest is talking about today. And you can see, how do we preserve our food? How do we keep it? How do we store it? How do we process it? All these are issues of food safety concerns. Now, if you're in Africa, ask yourselves, how do we preserve our cassava? How do we preserve our bananas? How do we preserve our millet, our maize? Look at the ways we preserve food. Now, this food is poisoned. Look at how people actually put food alongside the road, tarmac roads. People go and put their cassava there, their maize there to get the heat from the sunshine. But again, the environment is diseased, the environment is dirty. This is what Mr. Kimera is talking about, food on iron sheets. How do you put your food on top of iron sheets, knowing that actually there's asbestos? There are chemicals getting out of these iron sheets, especially old iron sheets. Look at the posho milling factories, machines, maize milling machines. How safe are they, where we get our maize and make flour and we make porridge and we make posho? How safe are these units of processing food? This is what our guest is talking about today. This is the slide. Look at how dirty the environment is. Look at the garbage, and then look at the tomatoes being sold just near the garbage pit, near the dump site. Now, how safe is the food that is being sold near the garbage pit? Look at the markets. Look at the markets in Uganda. Look at the markets in Kenya. Look at the markets wherever you are. These markets, in most cases, are near dumping sites. Now, these are food safety concerns. Look at that maize that's been affected by, of course, dirt and weather and all that. Now, if you get this maize and put it into the machine, of course, you're going to get damages. You're going to get poison. This is what our guest is talking about today. Look at the water you are taking right from a pit, right from a dirty source, and then you take this water without boiling it. This water is going to harm you. It's going to become poisonous. These are food safety concerns because water is food. Wine, everything we put in our bodies is part of the food elements, the food components. Now, these are food safety insights. The chemicals, farmers who have been asking you questions when you are fertilizing, when you are getting these chemicals and you put them on your plants, on your crops. How safe are these chemicals? How safe is the water we take? How safe is the environment that we breathe in when this environment has been contaminated by pesticides? We have been having challenges in Uganda where some of the pesticides have been found to be hazardous, have been found to be poisonous. Lava, Norotraz, Anglocell, Weedmaster, all these are types of pesticides that have been pointed out to be dangerous. They kill animals, they infect them with diseases. Plants like crops like tomatoes, onions, and others may be affected by these pesticides. And of course, when you put them on, they rarely get off. So you end up taking these pesticides as you eat. So this is suicide, this is homicide. When you eat all these foods that are poisoned, air drift, water, re-entering the field, indirect exposure, then the direct exposure, the crop, the livestock, the household, all these are things that we deliberately all and deliberately consume without knowing how dangerous they are. It's suicide, it's homicide. People are getting cancer, people are getting diseases, people are getting dementia and all these other diseases because of what we eat. Remember, Mr. Kimera showed us that garbage in, garbage out, garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you consume directly affects your health. Next slide, please. So what's on my plate? Check what is on your plate. What is on your plate? Is it healthy? What do you eat? Look at the tomatoes. Look at the tomatoes. Remember, they are putting on pesticides. Now, how safe are those tomatoes when you eat them without washing them? Even when you wash them, are we sure that these tomatoes are going to be clean, are going to be safe for consumption? These are food security concerns we are raising as Humanist TV Africa. What is in your glass as you drink that water, as you drink that juice? What is in your glass? Is it safe? Look at the water you're drinking. The water comes through a sewer. The water is dirty. Look at the plants you are eating. Look at the fertilizers. Look at the pesticides they are using to make this agriculture possible today in many countries in Africa. Are these plants, are these crops, are these fruits safe? Is the water you drink safe after all this contamination? Because people are using pesticides and then dumping the products in the water sources. Now, how safe is the water that we take in much of Africa? This water is more likely to be contaminated and it's going to give you challenges of diseases. Most right, please, water is life. That's a fact. 90% of our bodies, we are told, it's composed of water and even more. So water is life. So how do we know that our consumption of food and water is safe? This is what consumers' rights consent of Mr. Henry Kimera advocates for. This is why we are here today in today's show talking about food safety concerns. Brian, I'm going to request you to play video number 2. Please play video number 2. Please play video number 2. Our viewers can be able to watch it. Video number 2.
Chicken is often served to us in many flavor-packed and tempting forms, including the pan-fried, oven-baked, grilled, roasted, and smoked chicken. But did you know that the delicious chicken you routinely treat yourself to may be laced with antiretroviral drugs? A new study conducted among farm chicken in Wakiso district reveals that a large proportion of chicken breasts and thighs contain significant traces of efavirenz, a first-line HIV drug that reduces the amount of virus in the body.
One of the key drivers of our work, why we went to assess the presence of ARVs in farm chicken, was that there are media reports about misuse of ARVs in farm animals. We had not got any scientific data confirming this misuse, and that drove us to doing this work to generate data that people can rely on for future works, because there was none at the time of the study.
Although the practice of misusing ART medicines to promote animal growth and control diseases is an active landmine, there is meager scientific evidence on the magnitude of the problem. As the study's principal investigator, Dr. Oria set out to determine the content of ARVs in chicken tissue and feeds collected from different farms in Wakiso.
We did both qualitative and quantitative bits, so we used mixed methods. And for the qualitative part, we had key informant interviews. So we interviewed farmers and chicken feed providers. We're interested in asking the perceptions of these farmers on the use of these medicines and how they access them and why they actually use them. So our quantitative bit was to quantify how much ARVs are in chicken tissue, but also in the chicken feeds.
Of course, we went through different steps, including weighing the sample, mixing the sample, vortexing the sample, until we got a sample that we could inject into the machine. The machine is called high-performance liquid chromatography. So during the analysis, we already have the effluence standard, which we know that has concentration. That concentration, how we know it has, it comes in form of a graph, a curve. So you get a sample run versus that concentration. If a sample does not have a curve at that point of the effluence powder, then you consider that sample to be negative. It does not have any effluence concentrations. However, to our surprise, there are samples that actually had curves, small curves, but also curves that were huge. So those curves, when you plot them out, they correlate into concentrations. So based on that, we were able to present data to him and say, in this batch of samples, some are negative, but there are also those that have concentrations of effluence.
Ignorantly, farmers in the district claim that ARVs are given to chicken in a bid to increase their yields and size. Broilers that would otherwise take 12 months to fully grow for market sale take 4 months or even less.
The chicken, ARV present chicken were about 13.3%. And then the presence of ARVs in the chicken feeds was about 3.3%. So there was more of ARVs in the chicken tissue than in the chicken feeds.
As one of the major sources of animal protein in Uganda, Oria fears that consuming ART-encumbered chicken has a volley of negative repercussions for public health and HIV and AIDS care in Uganda.
The fact that we were able to detect ARVs in farm chicken shows that actually there's a misuse of ARVs in the farm chicken. So what this means is that we're exposing our people to very low amounts of ARVs as they eat the chicken. If the virus is exposed to low amounts of these drugs, then there's a possibility of developing resistance. So at the time when we want to use the ARVs as a first line treatment of people who develop eventually HIV/AIDS, it may not work because the virus might have developed resistance.
With growing evidence of ARV residues in Uganda's poultry, Dr. Oria's study lists 2 major recommendations to curb the mischievous practice. These are educating farmers on the dangers of using ARVs in farm animals and government instituting an online system to monitor use of ART medicines to control diversion and misuse of these drugs.
We must sensitize them on the appropriate use of medicines. The medicines are used in farming to treat poultry and other farm animals. And then
Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much for the video. Thank you so much, our guest, Mr. Henry is back. Courtesy the videos are through consumer consent, consumer rights, Uganda, and of course, Mr. Henry is right there with us. We are going to welcome him back to give us the last part of this show. Meanwhile, as he gets back on video, Brian Kabeko, may you please give us video number 1 as we get our guest back on video. May you please play for us video number 1, which was more in vernacular, because of course we know people just to see the images and others will be able to also pick it up from the angle of the Luganda. May you please, if you can.
Wakati nga tuli mu nnaku enkulu, abantu bangi bagufuula mugano okwegulira ku bintu ebyenjawulo ebyokulya omuli ennyama sako n'emmere, wabula era nga bagezigezi bangi ku nsi kuno nabo bakozesa akakisa kano okufa okulaba nga bayisaawo ebintu byabwe omuli okutambuza ebintu ebiri feke ate nga bino bibeera ku muwendo gwe wansi okusinziira ku bintu ebyaffe bye tumanyi ebya bulijjo. Gye buvuddeko twakulaga abasajja nga bwe bali mu kukola ennyama enkolere mu zirabalatole zaabwe. Eno nga wetwogerera yatuukadda mu supamaketi ez'enjawulo okwetoolola ensi yonna, era ng'eno kikubeera kizibu ejjawulo n'ennyama eyaffe gye tumanyi eya bulijjo naddala yetundibwa mu zisupamaketisi. Kyokka ng'era kkiriza omanye nti bano tebatudde, nga kati wenjogerera ebintu ebikolere ku ebiri bingi katale omuli amagi, omukyala ogwa plastic sako n'amakuloni, nga bino wenjogerera byatuukadde katale era nga n'awano mu Uganda weebiri. Wakati mu nteekateeka y'abasajja abaagala okendeza abantu abali ku nsi kuno, amaanyi bagateeka nnyo mu kuvumbula ebintu ebisobola okwanguya obulamu bw'omwana w'omuntu. Wabula nga bino ebiseera ebisinga obungi akabanga we kayitawo bivaamu ebizibu bingi omuli n'agalwadde agabayambako okusaanya obulamu bw'abantu, era nga bano bakozesa akakisa k'okuba nti abantu ennaku zino tebakyagala nnyo ebintu bibasumbuwa, okugeza kati tugambe nga mu kufumba. Ensangi zino abantu bagala nnyo ebintu ebyanguwa okujja amangu, era nga abasinga obungi kino bakikola okuba nti basobola kwawula bicupuli n'ebyo ebituukiridde, ng'olunaku olwaleero bye njagala tutunuulire. Nnamulenge. Bwenjogerera kati supermarket ezisinga obungi sako n'amaduuka ag'enjawulo gajjudde amagi ag'ebicupuli. Gano nga gakolebwa okusinga bannansi b'eggwanga erya China sako ne bannansi b'eggwanga erya Buyindi. Era nga gano gakola bano basaamu obwongo bungi nnyo nga gwama wowe ogenda odigula toyinza kulyawula n'amagi agaffe aga bulijjo. Era nga factory zino ziri mu mawanga ag'enjawulo ku nsi kuno nga zigeneddwamu okukola amagi gano sako n'ogasapuliyinga mu bitundu eby'enjawulo ate nga gatundibwa ku bbeeyi rayisi. Bano kola amagi gano ne gafaanana ddala ng'ag'enkoko geebiise. Beeyambisa chemicals ez'enjawulo wabula ng'ekyamazima chemicals zino we zigenda mu mubiri gw'omwana w'omuntu obulabo omuntu ayinza obutabulabirawo mu nnambiro wabula nga bwe wayitawo akabanga bino bibeera byakweyoleka kubanga bano bakozesa ekirungo ekya glucolactone okusobola okugumya ekikuta kino ekibeera ku ggiri n'ekkolerere ng'owama ne lifaanira ddala ng'ejje lyaffe erya bulijjo. Bakozesa ekirungo ekya benzoic acid okusobola okukuma eggi lino nga ddamu bulungi ng'ebirungo ebyalikola tebyonoonese. Bakozesa calcium chloride sako ne gypsum powder ono nga yabayambako okukola ekikuta ky'eggi lino. Beeyambisa ekirungo kya sodium alginate okusobola okukola ekimere kino ekibeera mu ggi. Food color okugattako n'ekirungo ekya tetrazine dye kino nga kye kibayambako okukola enjuba y'eggi ng'owama lino olisanga nga bamaze okuligattagatta tolina oyinza ddyawo yanajja eribiikiddwa enkoko. Nga wetwogera kumpi kati ku lisemazinga amagi gano kwegali nga nawane waffe mu ggwanga erya Uganda jjo lyabalamu wano mu 2018 poliisi yaggalako kampuni emu ey'Abachina mu bitundu by'e Kawempe Ttula ng'ekyabagasisawo kyali kyekusa kukola amagi gano amakolere genjogerako. Bwe kigwa ku muntu omwegendezera nga yeetegereza bulungi nnyo amagi gano asobola gawula n'amagi agaffe aga bulijjo ge tumanyi kubanga ejja ekkolere livaamu kasuwadde n'akamu ng'amagi amalala agaffe ge tumanyi aga bulijjo agava mu nkoko. Omuntu aba agenda odyasa lyanguwa mangu okwatika era nga sawundi alivaako nga lyatika tafaana nga sawundi ava ku magi gano ge tumanyi agaffe aga bulijjo agava mu nkoko. Enjuba y'amagi gano amakolerere ya kyenvu nnyo okusinga ku magi gano agaffe ge tumanyi aga bulijjo ag'enkoko. Eggi lino ekkolerere bw'oba omaze odyasa enjuba yaalyo yegatta mangu n'amazzi agabeera mu ggi lino ekitali ku magi agaffe aga bulijjo ge tumanyi agabikiddwa enkoko. So ngera kkiriza nkutegeeze nti amagi gano amakolerere ne bw'olyasa ne limalawo ennaku n'ennaku nga terikozeseddwa toyinza kulaba kasoole n'akamu kaliguddeko oba ge oba ogenda okulya ku jjo osooka dyetegereza oba kicupuli oba si kicupuli. Ekyo kikulekedde kuba ebintu bingi ebirala ebikyali katale kuno nga bicupuli nga mu biro mwe mulina omuceere ogwa pulasitiki sako n'amakuloni nga gusangibwa mu supermarket ezisinga obungi sako n'amaduuka ag'enjawulo nga gwe wamma omuceere guno sako n'amakuloni tolina oyinza byawulira nti oba bituufu oba si bituufu kubanga guno bagukola nga gufaanidde n'omuceere gwe tulimu ogwa bulijjo mu nnimiro. Olw'okuba nti abantu baagala nnyo ebintu ebyamangu ensangi zino omuceere guno sinakindi oba amakuloni gano mwana watumwangu okufumba kubanga gwanguwa okujja era nga bwe kiba kibadde kikutwalira eddekiika 45 okufumba omuceere ogwa bulijjo omuceere guno gw'ekicupuli gutwalira eddekiika 2 zokka okufumba ne gujja wabula ng'ekyenjawulo ekigwawula ku muceere omulala kwe kuba nti guno gwe guba gumaze okuwola guddayo mu sheepu yaagwo eri era ne guddamu okuba nga gukaluba nga kino sibwe kibeera ku muceere ogwaffe ogwa bulijjo gwe tumanyi nga ensonga lwaki weeyogendeza amawoteri agasinga obungi mu ggwanga erya China sinakindi mu ggwanga erya Buyindi bano ebintu ebimu byabwe babirira ku kyoto era nga nabo bakozesa akakisa kano okuteekamu omuceere guno omukolerere sako n'amakuloni. Kyokka bino bwebyogendereza ennyo singa obeera oli wakaawo omuceere guno sako n'amakuloni gano amakolerere singa kakutana n'obeera ng'obisirizizza sinakindi oba ogeessaako n'oyokya obuweke obw'enjawulo ku muliro obuweke buno buvaamu ekika ekiba kiwunya ddala ng'omuntu abeera yokyeza pulasitiki nga ne bw'oba oli mu kufumba omuceere guno oba amakuloni gano ne gakulaga nti gayidde gwe n'ogezaako n'okalambiza n'ongeramu amazzi n'obissa ku kyoto omukka ogubeera guvaamu gusobola n'okulumya olubuto. Ebintu bino omuntu waba abirira bisobola obutagirawo bukyamu bubirimu wabula nga bwe wayitawo akabanga ebintu bino bye bimu ku biviirako ebirwadde nga kansa puleesha okweyongera mu bantu ebirwadde ebikwata amawuggwe okwerabiralabira saako n'akasaayi okwekwata nga kino tekikonyisa lwaki abantu abasinga okufa akasaayi okwekwata be babalinamu kasente olw'okuba nti ebintu bya bisinga obungi bye bagula bajja mu supermarkets so ngera n'agalwadde agalala gannya agava ku kulya ebintu bino nga nabwe kityo gwalabye akairo nkusabye oyongere okwegendereza kubanga ebintu bino byamamira dda akatale ate era nga bwobiri obogezaako otukkiriza ebigendererwa by'abantu abamu. Ronald Kiwesiga egange.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That video from, of course, our ally KTV Uganda, Kingdom TV Uganda. Great video. Great insight from there. Now, it's very challenging. You can imagine all my producers are surprised that actually they are artificially made eggs. There is artificially made rice, plastic rice. Artificially made eggs, eggs, rice. Beef, we call it meat. Beef can be artificially made. So you go to supermarket, you buy this tinned food. You go, you buy rice, but this rice is plastic. It has been manufactured by the Chinese. Rice in Uganda, Mr. Kimera has shown you that actually they are concocting, they are making plastic rice. In Uganda, it's on our market. The government has been wrestling with Chinese investors who are making fake rice. They're also making fake eggs. Now today, our people are getting cancer. Our people are getting dementia. Our people are getting all sorts of complications. Food poisoning is growing so much in Uganda because investors are coming up and making fake products we call food. They are making eggs, they are making plastic rice, but you cannot know it's plastic until when you cook it. They are making all other varieties, including macaroni and other things. Now, this is food fraud we are talking about today. And we are saying, be careful. You may be thinking you're buying mineral water, but this mineral water is contaminated. That is food fraud. It can be spirits. Those of you taking some bit of spirits, wines, they can be counterfeit wines. It can be dangerous to your health. Now, what can we do? We are getting guests like Mr. Kimera Henry, who is a consumer rights advocate, having an NGO in Uganda that is the leading NGO in the region, not only Uganda, but in the Eastern African region. Mr. Kimera Henry leads that consumer rights advocacy, and this gentleman has been at the helm of telling people about their consumer rights. I told you, I first met my guest when I was a student being sponsored by the Germans. The Germans sponsored me to study a course under leadership, the Frederick Abbott Foundation. The Germans sponsored that course, and one of my trainers was that gentleman, Mr. Kimera Henry, who came to train us about consumer rights and consumer activism. And as youth, as young people, leaders in Uganda, that was about 2005, 2006. That gentleman was our trainer there. So I'm very grateful to have him today in the studio. Please, Dennis, yes, that is our gentleman, our guest today. Mr. Henry, give us this conclusion about what we have seen. We have 10 minutes to go. It's all your time now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you very much, colleagues. I'm sorry, technology is an ally, but technology at times can be a disincentive. It can impede something that is quite good. So it is, Paul, thank you very much for leading the different, our audiences through the slides, which are courtesy from the Food Safety Coalition of Uganda, where I chair, and my colleagues at Consent, who put those slides together. So I would like to thank you all, and like the different videos you've watched and different slides, the food safety and food fraud issues are key. You'll find that some of the aspects that you have watched might be in Uganda, but you've seen stories from Kenya, you've seen stories everywhere that that relate with our local environments in our different African countries. So it is very key, like we are discussing at ASO, the Africa Standards Organization, to have one standard for, let's say, testing, one standard for products, so that a product can be easily marketed along, but of good quality. Promoting and nurturing quality is going to be very key. But that said, as consumers, we need to be vigilant. And for private sector and businesses, we need to do better business by having healthy markets. We need to work together to fight the unscrupulous that make business look unfair to consumers. Without consumers, there is no business. So consumers plus scrupulous business, we can edge out those that are killing and those that are endangering our health. So what needs to be done? We need to advocate with our governments to make sure that we have got policies in place, legislations, legal, regulatory, and institutional frameworks in place. Then number two, we'll need to have, you will find that on our African continent, a number of countries, we have got different agencies that are looking into food safety. You'll find that food in one aspect is in Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, others in Ministry of Trade, others in Humanity, but all this needs coordination. We need to approach food from a systems approach, a coordinated approach. As I said earlier, everything starts with food. Then we need to invest in aspects to do with surveillance, investigations. We need to do inspection right from our local markets. The question I always ask, and I know you'll ask it in your respective countries, why is it that the food that is exported goes through rigorous testing, goes through rigorous inspection? Why don't we inspect the food we produce? Don't we care about our lives? So charity begins at home. The food that is exported is got off our market. So let's have healthy food markets right from our households to the export markets. That would lead to having a quality culture. That would lead to nurturing food safety culture in everything we do. Our new approach, or our new approach of work at Consent and all organizations we go to, is to think from a quality culture perspective. If I'm entering to offer a service, is it of good quality? Because a service provider in the food industry with the quality in the mind will end up getting quality food. Quality customer care where we buy our food. We have a lot of arrogant personnel in supermarkets. I know you will testify to the same where you are in your respective countries. They don't care, and that doesn't make better business. With better business, consumers are the winners. The other aspect that I would like to add on as we conclude with aspects of coordination to make sure that we curb food fraud and have a food safety culture. We need to have elements and legal infrastructure in case a product is seen to be dangerous, to affect, it's of poor quality, it can be recalled, it can be traced. But the cardinal aspect of all this is consumer awareness, consumer empowerment, consumer solidarity. We are the majority. We are the life and the heart of businesses. We are the life and heart of the national economies. When we vote with our wallets and we say no, nobody will listen. They will have to listen to us. We are the largest socio-economic grouping, but unfortunately, we are hardly listened to. You look at the global world, in the developed world, the market is demand-driven, not supplier-driven like in Africa, where we only take in what we are given. We need it now to stand up and say, I like a quality product, and it has to be supplied. Rather than shoving down poor quality, fake products, substandard products, products that...
Yes, Brian, back to me. Yeah, thank you so much, Brian and Baya in Nairobi, Kenya, our producers. The network is challenging us, but Mr. Henry Kimera has been giving us those insights. And please, if he happens to get back, please put him back through so he can give us his conclusion. So please keep on checking on him. He's telling us consumers, we are the people concerned here, because the capitalists, I always talk about capitalism as very unforgiving. Capitalism eats its own children. A capitalist doesn't care about you. In economics, when I was in a school of economics, what I studied was that a capitalist minds about profits, not about your health. So Mr. Henry Kimera and Consent Uganda, an NGO that talks about consumer rights, are the guys that are protecting our rights as consumers. Remember, a producer, a capitalist, does not care about you. A capitalist cares about profits. Now, we must support NGOs like Consent Uganda that talks about consumer rights. And we are going to be inviting all NGOs across Africa and the world that talks about consumer rights to come and talk about these issues, because food is life. When you eat food badly, when your food is poisoned, that food becomes your own disease. So stop eating food as medicine, as drugs. eat food as something healthy and you check it. Mr. Henry has been telling us that we must be conscious, deliberately conscious at the production stage. If you are harvesting your maize, if you're going to make flour out of your maize, how safe is that maize? Look at the process of making it dry. If you're going to have these tomatoes, how safe are these tomatoes? What are the chemicals you are using? If you're going to the supermarket to buy rice, be careful. You are likely to buy Chinese rice, which is plastic rice. If you're going to be buying eggs, be careful. Find out what is the normal egg vis-a-vis an egg made by the Chinese. The Chinese are manufacturing eggs using chemicals. The Chinese are manufacturing rice using chemicals, using laboratories. They are making rice not in gardens. They are making eggs not in gardens, but in laboratories. Now, mind about the eggs you buy in the supermarket. Mind about the rice you buy in the supermarket. Mind about tinned food you buy. You may be buying poison. You may be buying beef, but which is manufactured by some of these Chinese investors. Why do I speak Chinese? Not that I'm against them, but because in Uganda, it has been proven that Chinese are giving us counterfeit products. The government of Uganda has been closing down Chinese factories for producing fake rice, plastic rice, for producing fake eggs, for actually putting fake beef on the market, the so-called tinned beef. Now, this is why this show becomes important today. We have been talking about food fraud and safety challenges in Africa. The other time I was watching a documentary in Kenya, hundreds of people died after consuming a certain type of liquor. My producers are Kenyan, they know. People died in Kenya just a few months ago after consuming a certain type of liquor, alcohol, if you want. They died in big numbers. Now, that is food fraud. We must be careful because we are all concerned about one thing we have in life, and that is life itself. Life is so important. Today, we've been talking about food fraud and safety challenges in Africa. Our guest has been Mr. Kimera Henry, the team leader of Consent Uganda, which is a human rights advocacy team, NGO, that works across the region, not only in Uganda. Mr. Kimera, for years, I've told you, he was my trainer when the German sponsored my course as a leader in Uganda. Mr. Kimera trained us. We are selected leaders, about 25 of us selected in Uganda, sponsored by the Germans to study about rights. And one of the rights we studied was consumer rights. That's why today we invited Mr. Kimera to be here and share with us that knowledge he gave me so many years ago. Please, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, but also our Facebook page at Humans TV Africa, but also to send us an email at info@humanstvafrica.com, but also to write us an email, of course, a WhatsApp message. Send us a WhatsApp message at +254 747356 767, and of course, our spokesperson will be able to interact with you. We shall be having Mr. Kimera back. This was episode 1. We shall be having him very soon in episode 2. We shall continue talking about food security in Africa, food fraud, food concerns, and of course, later on, we shall also talk about food slavery in Africa, in different episodes. We shall be here to talk about these issues. This is HTV, which is Humans TV Africa. We are here to educate, empower, inform our audiences. Keep it live. Thank you so much, our producers in Kenya, Dennis Kabeko, Hussein Baya, and of course, Vince Bongole, for the good work done. Thank you so much. Our guest today, Mr. Kimera, we shall be having you very soon back on set. See you in the next one.